UGA spring game is in the books with a good showing from the offense, but defense made some plays too, and this will be super important as we go into the next window of the transfer portal. We got some news in college football from the quarterback position at a rival of ours. Rory takes home the Masters, and the NBA playoffs is about to get started as the seeding is almost complete. All they have left is the play-in tournament. As always, I'm Chito, and with me is my co-host Keegan, and welcome back to another episode of Dogs Off the Leash.
I do it for the dogs. Do it for the dogs. Do it for the dogs. I do it for the dogs. I do it for my dogs. Who you do it for? 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 I do it for the dogs. I do it for my dogs.
We won.
Yeah, dogs win. Dogs win, bro.
Ring the bell.
Good showing. I think early reports are from those who got to make it down there, whether you're media or just a fan or what have you, supporting as a family member. It sounds like it was a good day for some Georgia football. We had good weather, got to see the depth chart on full display. You know, early reports, the vibe that I'm getting is that, you know, we talked about how we were really excited about both the tight end and the wide receiver rooms. But it's been a minute since we've had monsters as far as like the physical stature, especially of our outside wide receivers. And then that tight end room from top to bottom for the next few years is going to be great. But this team has a chance to be super explosive. Obviously, they threw it a lot, not wanting to have too much contact running the ball. I think they threw it a substantial amount more than they ran the ball. But we also got to see a little bit of glimpse of the offensive line, even though we have some twos in there for our injured starters. So the vibe I get is that this team has a lot of potential upside. But how much of that can we realize with the new guys in and the young guys?
Yeah, I think the few things that we were keyed into were pretty consistent leading up to G-Day about the things that we were looking at on this team. And I think we won G-Day on those metrics. You heard it 1,000 times. Like, I hope we win. You know, it's like how many people said that, I swear. But with that, I'll just go through a few of these. So Gunner passed really well. He had 300 yards, and at times he was timid and could have been ripping it a little bit harder and been more aggressive. But putting up 300 yards with Gunner Stockton and the few runs that he did do, granted, you know, they're not tackling him, that's a good mix. If he can do those kind of numbers with a running game, with our weapons, that's great. So that happened.
From Gunner, seeing 300 yards, that is a great day. Now, to be honest, he was 17 of 34, so only 50%. But from the tape that's coming out, it looks like a lot of this was a lot of vertical down the field passing, which I, for one, want to see, have wanted to see, and need absolute more of that, especially when you consider Kobe Young has 2 touchdowns on the day, looking like just a dominant wide receiver, right? And then imagine him across the way from Noah Thomas. And not only that, but London Humphreys was used a whole lot as well, finished with 2 touchdowns himself. Dylan Bell being the vet, 5 catches for 78. Sokovie White had a touchdown. Really, this offense was explosive. But for me, what I really wanted to see from Bobo, vertical passing, shots to the end zone. Saw plenty of that. And then for Gunner, it's about what I asked for was pocket presence and that mental clock in previous podcasts. But all reports are saying that there's a clear separation on how comfortable Gunner is with the offense and the playbook than Puglisi, which makes sense. He started his career at Georgia with an injury, didn't get the same amount of reps last spring as he got this spring. So even he showed some growth. But Gunner executed the offense really well. He was picked by Harris on an end zone shot, which I think says a lot about Harris flying around. And that was the pass to Kobe Young as well. So love to see that from your DBs.
Chito, tell me, what did you think about the offensive line room as a whole, considering the injuries?
And offensive line, what I heard was Bo Hughley started at left tackle, Michael Morris at left guard, Bobo in the middle, Michael Unai at right guard, being that Calhoun is out, and then Green over at the right tackle. I remember us seeing Green a lot at left tackle, so this is the switch that they've been doing lately, but I guess they're really stuck to it and feel like Freeling's going to be their best option. So that's what the offensive line looked like. Gunner Stockton, and then a little blip about the wide receivers, which I'm still really excited about.
Now, I texted you this, Chito, when I saw the play, and then I did a whole backstory on this guy. But Jeremy Flight Bell, He had a nice deep pass, one of those vertical passes you mentioned, but he kind of came in under the radar for this Georgia team and for me as a fan who's paying a lot of attention.
And this isn't Dylan Bell's brother, right? That's Micah Bell,
That's
the
my
other guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're ringing the bell. We got 3 bells, related and not related. But also a little bit about Jeremy. He was a 4-sport athlete in high school: tennis, track, football, and basketball. And he was a track state champ in the 400 meter. So,
Nice.
yeah. So the dude's got some speed, but I was impressed by the catch. It was an over-the-shoulder, deep end zone kind of catch. Having someone with track speed with good hands is a deadly combination, and maybe he could kind of fill the role here and there for that Arian Smith type of infusion. So I liked what I saw from him. And in the running back room, I would just like to mention we had several guys get carries. Really everyone got touches, but I thought Chauncey Bowens did surprisingly well. Dwight Phillips is kind of on my radar, and Micah Bell broke out at least one good carry. I think it was a scamper for about 14. So
Yeah, just wanted to expand more on Chauncey Bowens, who's really getting praised right now for being that early down carry back, a big back who's going to hit you up in between the tackles. 5 carries for 38 yards. Frazier came in and had a touchdown to end one of the drives. The running back room looks really good. Even for the black team, Bo Walker is going to be the next sturdy, strong back. He's really starting to impress a lot of people coming out of camp. 8 carries for 44 yards. Yeah, just a lot of positives coming from that room. And mind you, we still have 2 bona fide starters who aren't even back yet.
Hell yeah. And I read this quote from Cash Jones, I believe it was, and he was saying that, Bo Walker to him reminds him a lot of Dejon Edwards' play style in the way that he cuts, and he can have that one step and have a guy miss. And not only that, he's very willing to run you over. So, yeah, excited to see what he does this season. And while we got the Robinsons out, this running back room's going to really do well. And, yeah, Chauncey Bowens kind of was an afterthought for me, if I'm being honest, but really showing his impact in that running back room.
Yeah, and they're talking about Dwight Phillips being more of a gadget type of guy, a playmaker, kick returner, that type of thing, just with that blazing speed. And again, you have weapons, use them. Now, when you play at an SEC school, especially one as, has many memorable players in the league and past as Georgia, you're going to get compared to a lot of people, right? Especially with a name like Bo Walker. That's inevitable. But what's happening with our tight end room is people are already starting to compare them to past UGA tight end greats, right? And it's easy to want to call the next person the next Brock Bowers, but when you hear people talk about Ethan Barbour, the way he is a very polished route runner this early, good size, good speed, he is going to have a breakout season here soon. Maybe not this season, but very on the horizon, right? Jaden Riddell, somebody I've been super vocal about, just the ball catching abilities, 50-50, top, catch it at the top, all those things. And then you have,
and they had him on that one pretty decent run, kind of like they would Brock Bowers. And
yeah,
for a second there, I was like, wait a minute, who is that guy? I was like, oh yeah, Jaden.
And it's going to be easy to do that. And then Elias Williams is, LeBron James size. Same thing we were saying about Darnell Washington. So as many greats as we have had come through that room, we keep recruiting at such a high level. So I'm really excited to see that room, how the vets take over, but also these young guys learning from those guys. You know what I mean? It's like having an older dog. Some people want to wait and get a puppy before it passed, right? So the older dog can teach the young pup, hey, this is how we get down in this house, right? You go bathroom over here, not over here, and all that type of thing. So I feel like the old dogs on our team can really lead the way for these young pups to come through and understand what it takes to succeed in this room, because it's been a really talent-heavy room the past few years, and I don't think it's slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, speaking of young pups that need teaching, Puglisi had a pretty decent G-Day, all things considered, and I think where you measure where he's at, given the fact that he was injured, this is truly his first spring, he did okay. I don't know if I'd go into full worry mode, but I don't think he's quite ready to be our backup in the sense that he's ready to lead this team to success day one. Like maybe he's ready to take some lumps and then learn from the lumps. But if we don't want to afford any lumps and any harsh learning moments under a Puglisi-led team, I just think it might be best if we go get a transfer option, or maybe on the podcast last week, you had said Cotton Gin. I was making fun of you and I said it was Colton Gin. Well, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Coulter Gin. So
Coulter, and I've heard it even said Ginn. Coulter Ginn.
Oh, well, it might be Ginn. I don't know.
So, yeah, we'll get it one day.
Yeah, Coulter. Either way, though, you're worthy of praise and mention on this pod today because he had a great 50-yard pass and a touchdown, both to London Humphrey. So
Nice.
that was his contribution for the day. I mean, 2 passes for 57 yards and a tutty. That's pretty efficient right there. So
It's not bad at all for somebody who could potentially start at a lower level school across the country. You know what I mean?
yeah, and in practice, he's been killing it. So I'm not saying Puglisi won't have his day at UGA. I really like what he brings. I think he's a cool dude. I loved his willingness to compete no matter who was here. And he's done some good things. He's very solid, but it could be like maybe backup role this season could go to Coulter, being what it is. And then a transfer also could and probably should be considered given that if you don't have that quarterback backup and if one guy goes down. And I think that Colby and Noah Thomas could be that strong 1-2 punch. And with those guys having the size that they have.
And that deep threat opens up everything underneath that a slot receiver could need, a tight end receiving underneath could need, running backs out of the backfield. It really is Gunnar Stockton's maybe his best friend, a decent running game, outside threats, and allow him to read the field a little bit easier.
Yeah, and I think with that opens things up for just a straight X factor in someone like Zachariah Branch, who could really do it all. So the 4 guys I wrote down as really key contributors, C.J. Wiley had a great catch. Talon Taylor was out there hustling. I don't know if I even saw him catch the ball, but, on the field a lot. London Humphrey and Zakovi. And Zakovi White had arguably 2 of the best highlights of the day.
Yeah.
With some flashy catches. So that group, highly talented. And then one guy you got to talk about. We talked about the O-line already, but Ja Jackson played a ton of snaps throughout the game and was pretty damn dominant. So that's someone that the more looks he gets, it's one thing if you just got a big guy out there and he just happens to be bigger than everyone else, but he's just not that good. But when you got a guy showing that he can play and he's 6'10", sky could kind of be the limit with a guy like that, being as young as he is and as raw as he is.
Yeah, and as much as we're excited with the offense, and most fan bases only really get excited about the offense, we know here at Georgia it's really been the defense that's carried us. So I want to give a shout to those guys. And if we didn't mention before, the final score was 34-17, and I believe, Keegan, correct me on this, red team was first team offense, second team defense, black first team defense, second team offense. 34-17 red. But yeah, some of the names that you're going to hear coming out of this G-Day game, DeMello Jones, who we've been talking about, is really in that mix for a corner, whether it's a 1 or 2. And I saw some podcasts, some other people that do intel on the Dogs who are really confident that because Dalen Everett had to miss a lot of spring, the other guys all got first team reps. And I think that gives them a lot of confidence where I might not be starting today, but I've shown the coaches that I've got good tape and I'm going to help this team throughout the season, and I'll get my time soon. So those 4 guys in the cornerback room, really excited about them. Dom Kelly played well. I would have to get a little bit more intel on Dom. I've heard this name several times, and I'd love some more feedback, but he had an interception on the day, I believe. The other one outside of Harris, but also ended up hurting his ankle. So maybe a little bit of a setback for him, but has had a good spring up to this point so far.
Yeah, all those guys were balling. Dom Kelly, the little bit I know about him, that
he's supposed to be like a senior in high school or something like that, right?
That's the big intel on him right now, just that he's the guy who reclassified.
Yeah, that's him.
He might have some Ryan Williams commentator going off about how he's only however old that he is. And yeah, so we shall see. But yeah, I think the secondary is a lot deeper than I thought maybe 8 or 9 weeks ago, and even deeper than I thought when I thought that it was actually looking pretty good right before the spring game. So I really feel good about them. And then Justin Williams just was killing it. So that was the guy that I think he led in tackles, but he was all over the field. For as much talk as Chris Cole got, it was Justin Williams. And hey, it sounds like we got a lot of talent in the linebacker.
And Chris Cole earned his hype too. There was word he batted several passes down on the day, especially Puglisi, who's got to learn, got to have a little bit more trajectory for athletic defensive linemen. This team still seems pretty confident that the D-line is going to be held on by McLeod. Hall's expected to have a good year. Griffin got some hype as well. In the safety position, opposite of KJ Bolden, what I'm hearing is that Zion Branch came out and impressed. And it looks like he may have the first crack at it, followed by Jaden Harris, I believe the name is. Now, we talked a little bit about the UAB transfer, Maddox, who a lot of people are really excited about, has good tape, has played outstanding, even at a lower talent level. But he played behind Jonel Aguero, who, again, is more of a run supporter at that star position. But seeing Maddox get in there and find a home, I think is going to be important for his confidence and for his development. So the secondary room, safeties, stars, and corners is starting to take a little bit of shape. So, mind you, we still have some people injured and we'll have some depth come back, but that's optimism. That's stock up over here.
Hell yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Did you see that video of John Gruden speaking at Wisconsin by chance?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so if you guys get a chance, check it out. But I think it really applies to this defense. He broke out a whiteboard, giving a little talk about the 4 things he thinks the team needs. I don't even remember all 4, but number 1 was that, he's not into dreams, he's into nightmares. And what he said is, like, a lot of teams got dreams, but what I'm into is killing dreams, ending dreams, and causing nightmares. So I think this defense.
John Gruden's that guy.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. It was a hype speech, so you guys got to check it out. And I didn't even do it justice in the John Gruden voice, but he's like, I'm into nightmares. He was like very hyped. But yeah, I think that's what we got to be this season, is just be that agitator, that disruptor, havoc as they call it. That's what this defense will need to do moving forward to kick ass. So yeah, I love that John Gruden line though.
Yeah, and speaking of disruptors, there was a rumbling a little bit further south in Georgia when it comes to the Masters tournament. And Rory McIlroy ends up completing the career Grand Slam with his first win at Augusta National, and getting his green jacket. I mean, that was absolutely phenomenal. He had some crazy shots. I think his second shot on hole 15, about a 207 out, 7 irons, bends it around a tree, drops it on the green for an eagle look, ends up getting a birdie. But shout out to him. He battled with Bryson DeChambeau, who people were upset he wasn't getting a lot of coverage. It was great. And this goes all the way back to last year when Rory had the lead at the U.S. Open at Pinehurst, and DeChambeau came back and beat him because Rory missed some easy putts. So shout out to Rory, who's been waiting to complete this part of his career for 11 seasons, I think they said. So now he's a Masters champion and a career Grand Slam, which is a very, very short list of people on there. Nicholas, Tiger, what have you. So shout out to the Masters. Great tournament.
Yeah, and it sounded like he tried to blow it several times. Like there's some close calls. But...
yeah, he ended up in a playoff and then won the playoff hole, which is huge.
Wow. I think, was he the 6th person to ever do it, I want to say?
Yeah, 5th or 6th, man. Yeah, it's short list.
And then a few of my golf buddies were saying, maybe it's even more impressive for Rory and Tiger to do it because, the competition now is even tougher, way more insane.
Absolutely.
Crazier back in the Ben Hogan and Jack Nicklaus days.
Gary Player. Yeah.
Those guys are great, but it's just like.
It's a different game now.
It is, so.
Different tech, different everything.
I'm kind of in the dark when it comes to golf, but it made me want to look more into the significance of it because people were so hyped. Like, I'm like, okay, yeah, people get excited about golf, but is it just me or people are like really hype about this moment? So it was definitely like a big deal. But the crazy news we got to talk on, man, is Nico. I am going to leave Tennessee like. What the hell? Like, and every time I hear
I'm a leaving
like I thought that was his name from the beginning, and the fact that he is leaving is kind of ironic. But every time I hear Nico, I just go back to Grand Theft Auto.
It's a bad year to be named Nico. You got Nico Harrison from the Dallas.
Oh man.
Yeah, now Nico.
Yeah.
Nico
One day I hear that Nico's not going to practice. He's a no-show. That's the news. And then the next day it gets reported that Tennessee is moving on from Nico. So basically what ended up happening is that they had been pushing, they being Nico's camp, pushing for negotiations since like December, and leading into spring practice, things had not been resolved. And straight out of the playbook from the NFL agents, they tried to leverage their position in a holdout. What they were asking for is, Nico's contracts for $2 million, they wanted $4 million. So basically they were trying to double Nico's contract. Tennessee was not having it, and they pulled the plug. Basically, you're fired, and who knows where Nico will go. But what do you think this speaks to, Chito, and how does this impact college football moving forward?
Two things. The first person that's going to feel it is the University of Tennessee. They are going to have a bump in the road at the very least, right? The chemistry, trying to find a replacement, all of that. But I've said as much, and Kirby has been preaching this for a long time. He has said, if you make this sport about the money, that's what's going to happen. Kids are going to do this. Their agents are going to push them to do it. Their families who are going to eat off that money are going to push them to do that. And this is how these things go. This is the first story. I'd be surprised if it was the last, but the NCAA is just not got the reins tight on this situation. This is what happens when you don't have good leadership. And I've said on this podcast, man, when money is involved, people start acting funny. And he is going to end up probably in a less good situation with as much money as he wants to, but not going to get the development, not going to have the stigma. And that's if college football as a whole doesn't blackball him. So I hate this for the game, and I hope this new legislation that's about to come out really just puts a cap on all this. I'm already tired of it. So
Yeah, I think it's just the growing pains of the changes. But like a buddy said to me, and I think he makes a great point, is that the Tennessee offense is the type of offense that needs a third-year guy to run it at its highest level. That's just what it's shown. So, for them not to have it, to have that kind of guy with the experience, maybe they land an awesome transfer and it all works out. But it's hard to believe that the change in the quarterback position not affecting their season to the detriment. But, hey, to be continued on that. And to me, I just thought, he's the sixth best QB in projections. If Carson's getting 5, is he as good as Carson? Not really. Is he even?
He hasn't earned it yet. I mean, I get wanting more money.
Yeah, so
he hasn't earned it yet.
And I think that just kind of opens up this conversation about production versus potential. And I think moving forward, Georgia might be better suited erring on rewarding production, incentivizing what has already occurred versus like buying into the stock of a future potential player. So, and it's like some of these guys just want this Egyptian pharaoh lifestyle. So we need to reset the market and have the money kind of just make sense.
And lastly, we have the NBA playoffs about to kick off, but first we will have the NBA play-in. Keegan, I want you to tell me where the Hawks stand over here, but the play-in for the West will be the number 7 Warriors after their loss to the Clippers versus the Grizzlies. And I believe it's Sacramento versus the Mavs to get in.
Yeah, Tuesday at 7:30 at Orlando. The Hawks and the Magic just played each other 3 times in the past 8 days, so they are very familiar. I think the Hawks can take them. They have a great team gelling at the right time, but we'll see if they win, 7th seed. If they lose, they'll play for 8th seed, so they got 2 chances to make the playoffs. Hope they don't mess this up.
And again, in the West, we'll have the Lakers take on the Timberwolves 3-6 on Saturday. And then we got a 4-5 matchup between Kawhi and the Clippers with Denver Nuggets and Jokic. Yeah. And Keegan, I wanted to just say my MVP candidates, finals MVP to win it all this year, I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown, Luka, SGA, LeBron, and Steph as the most opportunity to win a finals MVP, and we'll see how it shakes out. But Dog Nation, appreciate you. It was a great weekend for sports. Keegan, always a blast, man. I appreciate you sitting down with me and hopping and taking over all this.
And coming up, I'm going to do a special edition WrestleMania preview. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a whole separate pod. It was just too much to put on this one. So for the ones who are into it, WrestleMania, maybe a one-time edition, maybe a future pod. We'll see. But stay tuned.
Guys, make sure you check in with us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And as always, guys, you know what it is.
Off the leash.
Off the leash.
I do it for the dogs.